Okay. We are. Find my spiel here for 1 second. I should be able to recite this. On June 16, 2021, the Governor Baker signed into law an act extending the certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension until April 1st of 2022 of the remote meeting law provisions of the March 12th, 2020 executive orders, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during the meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. Sorry for the delay. So do we want to roll right into hearings?
Actually, can we add a couple of things to the agenda, Frank?
Yes.
One was voting on orders for 9 Pondview and Bayberry Road and the ORAD for 109 Elm. And then also discussion about Appleton
And the Driftway Park.
and Driftway.
Oh,
Okay.
Andrew, sorry. Okay,
Yep.
I'll make a motion. We accept the agenda with the add-ons.
Great. Thank you, Penny. I have a
Second from
second
Jen.
from Jen. All in favor? I know you're all up there. Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now.
Okay, 33 Oceanside was a continuation. You have anybody from Ross Engineering?
I think I saw Paul Marabito. I'm gonna unmute
He's out
him.
there somewhere.
Yep. Okay, Paul. Is
You got really bad hat here today.
Frank, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Paul.
Okay, thank you. I'm still waiting to get an answer from the Department of Public Works as to whether or not the solution I submitted to them is acceptable. I did meet with the director several weeks ago. I gave him a photograph of what we wanted to do. It was basically putting a vertical stone just inside the layout on the private property. And I asked him if that was acceptable. You know, I proposed granite. And I told him what I need to know is what treatment can I use between there and the edge of the pavement. I still haven't heard from them. I know they've been busy with the storm we had 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I have made phone calls over there and they haven't been returned. So I can't move forward with
Paul,
this.
what do you have to, if you're putting the stone on the owner's property, why do you have to do anything between that and the road?
Because the lawn used to go right to the edge of the pavement like everyone else's.
Yeah,
That area is very unstable and we're proposing to stabilize that, so it'll help the homeowner as well as the town, so they don't have the continuous washout in that area. There are catch basins on the corner of Oceanside and Kenneth Road, and they always get filled with a sediment coming off of that strip between the edge of pavement and the layout line. And the owner has always had to replace that material, and what he wants to do is stabilize the slope so he's not in that situation after every big storm.
do you have a suggestion for that material, Paul? I
Yes.
guess what I'm wondering is, why don't you just make a submittal to the DPW and we'll see if we can get an approval or not. So we can get this has been going on for a while and I realize you're in limbo.
No, no, you're right, it has, and the owner's anxious to bring this to resolution, but
Yeah,
I'd be happy to take your suggestion and submit something to them.
yeah, why don't you do that, send it to them and us and see if we can't.
All right, I mean, I'd also like to bring this to a close for obvious reasons, so.
Well, we'll see if it closes, but we'll at least kick the can down the road a few more feet.
All right,
All right,
Yes.
Whatever he sends for DPW should be copied to Amy, right?
that's what yeah, I think
Yeah.
I sent it to both of us.
Wait, do,
Go ahead, Doug.
well, I'm trying to remember this because this has been kicking around for a while, but wasn't the proposal on this, because this is the one that has a superseding order from DEP, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
So what, wasn't the proposal to stabilize the slopes with plantings?
yep,
No, it was, well, that was the original proposal. The plantings were put in, but that the plantings are not stable enough to withstand the worst of the storm. So we proposed some hardscape. And I think when I came with the first hearing, I believe it was you, Penny, that said that we need to get approval from the DPW to do work within the layout as we propose it. Doug, I was proposing various layers of stone and crushed stone and filter cloth to stabilize the slope. And that's what we presented to the commission. But when I showed it to the DPW, they weren't in agreement with it. So I proposed the vertical granite stone onto the property. And I said, and I asked them, what can we put on the surface of the ground from the layout line to the edge of the pavement? He said he'd get back to me, and I haven't heard from him. So,
Right, but the proposed plantings that were part of the original submittal, those were never put in, correct?
yeah, there's some grading done out in that area. I'm sorry, you're right. I don't think the plantings were put in, but the soil was, and the soil got washed away in short
Well,
order.
yeah, but
Storm.
but is there a reason that you think that the plantings as proposed and, you know, approved as part of the order it won't work? Like those were,
Yeah, because the plantings were too low in elevation. What I'd suggest we do is if we can put that vertical curbing in at the straight line, put the plants up on the slope. So they're further up in elevation than the original ones were. I mean, the original ones were down by the street level. And, you know, they were on a raised berm about a foot to 18 inches above street level. He had the soil in there and it got washed out in one of the storms.
yeah, no, I get it, that the soil keeps washing away. I'm just,
I mean, what I
So I guess Doug, I've lost track on this a little bit. So you're saying that that there's already something approved for there and it was planting that shoulder?
yeah,
Because I forget.
Yes, there was. There's a planter berm we put in with plants on top of it. And Fred brought the soil in, but it got washed out before he could put the plants in. So what I said to him was that we need to put some hardscape in the layout so we don't have the soil erosion, and then we could put the plants on the uphill side of the layout line where the slope starts to go up to the lawn area.
excuse. Yoo-hoo.
Yeah, sorry, Penny. So I guess we're gonna march this around the commission for everybody to comment. Doug, have you got an answer to what you asked?
yeah, I do. And I guess what's difficult for me to try to get my head wrapped around is there's a superseding order issued by DEP. And then we're being asked to change what DEP put in their order at a local level. I don't know how we do that. I know it's frustrating because you haven't heard from DEP, but I feel like DEP needs to approve any modifications to the order. I'm even confused why Paul is here. Like, why isn't this just handled directly with DEP since
Doug,
there's no superseding?
Doug, I'm waiting to hear from the DPW.
Yeah, oh, to
Yeah, but-
DPW, but DEP, did they have any comments about a change in the?
No, the only thing I do know is that they're adamant that he not put a wall in there. If you recall, he started the work by putting the boulders in there, which were not permitted. And the DEP, under the superseding order, visited the site and they ordered them to be removed, which he did do. So now he's back to the point where the area from the layout line to the edge of pavement is unfinished. It's been scoured out, and he's looking to put something in there that will stabilize it so the soil doesn't keep eroding.
So, but has DEP given you any directions on what to do about that? Or they, do they want you to follow through with the original orders, not the original, the ones they gave you, the superseding orders? They want you to follow through with that, or are they
No,
accepting a change in the orders?
I spoke to Greg DeCeased and I told him that we would resubmit a notice of intent with a different type of treatment. He said, make sure you don't put the boulders in there, which we haven't done for obvious reasons, so. He was, actually Greg DeCeased was coming to the site every week and he had to report to the people in Boston as to the progress of the work that was being done under the superseding order. That's been completed with the exception of this work in the layout area. And the copy of the notice of intent has gone to the DEP and I believe we have a file number for it. But like I mentioned at the first meeting, Penny raised the issue as to whether or not we needed to get approval from the DPW. So I continued it and I did make contact with him after a while. I gave him a photograph similar to this, the same type of treatment they used on Countryway for a sidewalk they put in. And I've been waiting to hear back from them as to whether or not we can use the same treatment.
Okay, it's
So,
just-
so maybe
Yeah,
to
go
answer
ahead.
your question, Doug, Amy, is this where DEP is already involved in this? Should this change just go right to DEP?
Well, no, they filed, this is a separate notice of intent, so this is a local decision at this point, separate from the superseding order.
Now I'm even more confused.
Yeah, I just, so we can,
Frank, this is a matter of a procedure. Once I come up with a solution that's agreeable to the DPW, we would revise the plan, submit it to the commission as well as the DEP.
okay, so we're like not even to that stage yet.
No, I'm still waiting to get an answer as to what I can do for final treatment on the layout.
And you're proposing work in the layout. Why, if you kept it on private property, wouldn't that eliminate DPW, or do they still have to comment on that?
They wouldn't have to comment on anything outside the layout. The problem is, as you know, most people have their lawns or landscaping going right to the edge of the pavement. That strip out there is pretty ugly and the owner's trying to clean it up so it doesn't look as bad as it does. Unfortunately, it's in the layout and the town won't do the work, so he's offering to do it to improve the aesthetics of the lot itself.
Okay. Right, well, let other people get involved here.
Okay. Penny's been flailing around there.
Yeah. Okay. I have a bunch of comments to make on this. First and foremost, if I'm correct, it's been a year and a half since DEP gave those orders. And I'll tell you right now, as far as I'm concerned, you should have put in plantings, tried that. Plantings by now would have stabilized that area. They grow once you put them in, Paul. He never did that. He never tried what they told him to do. And I have no idea why you would think a vertical granite would be allowed by DEP. That's like a mini wall you're asking to put in. I mean, I'm just very frustrated with this whole thing because he didn't even put plantings in. Of course, if you put soil down and you let it sit, it's going to get washed away. I mean, that doesn't take any thought. He should have done what he was supposed to do, gave that, see what happened. The last couple of years, we haven't had terrible winter storms. More than likely, if he had done what he was supposed to do in the beginning, we would have plantings there that were getting nice and big. I I don't know why you even think that you can go put granite on there. DEP said nothing hard, no hardscape. And now you're back with hardscape. This should have been taken care of minimal a year and a half ago. There should have been plants in down there. That's my 2 cents. I'm just tired of it. It's going on for nothing.
Frank, could I
Okay.
quickly respond to that?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
Penny, as I mentioned earlier, the contractor did place the soil down for the plantings. It was compacted, and before the plantings went in, he had a storm and the soil got completely washed out. That seems to be the situation that's going to happen, even if the plantings were in, because the water coming over that seawall has quite a bit of force to it. What happens is once you get to the property line of the street, the land goes up in elevation. That granite stone I'm talking about, I proposed an 8-inch stone just to stabilize the bank, and then from there slope it up and put the plantings on there. Because everything from the layout line to the edge of pavement is going to get washed out. I mean, the past 2 or 3 storms have indicated that, and the owner doesn't want to keep having to put the soil back.
You know, if it was done in the spring, Paul, give me a break. You put the soil down in the spring, you get the plants in immediately. How many huge storms do we get in the spring and summer for the growing season? By the time that storm came, he took his time putting that soil down. I mean, I disagree 100% with what you're trying to do here. And 8 inches, I don't care if it's 2 inches. DEP said no hardscape. That's hardscape. That's my 2 cents, Frank.
okay. Richard,
Well, first of all, it's as frustrating as Penny indicates, and I kind of echo her sentiments. I don't think it's that hard to stabilize it if people do it sincerely and with appropriate timing. I guess as much as I think that Penny added maybe 5 cents worth, I think I agree with her, and this needs to be resolved. And I'm really not concerned about what the person really would like to do. I think he needs to adhere to what has been asked and get it done. And also, if DEP says no hardscape, I might slightly disagree with Penny in that there are ways to have smaller versions that don't make it a wall, but still it is hardscape that they don't want to have. That's my 1 cent worth. Give Penny
Okay.
5 cents.
Okay.
Jen,
I have nothing new.
okay, Andy,
Yeah, nothing to add to that.
Brendan.
I have nothing to add.
Do we have anybody in the audience for this one tonight? Amy Grosier. Can we let Amy in?
Muted Amy.
Amy?
Yeah, Amy Grosier. I just tried to unmute her. Where'd she go?
She's unmuted if she can hear us. All right, why don't, if she's not there, can we, there's another person, Darius?
Okay, yeah, Darius.
Darius, can you guys all hear me?
Darius, sorry, Darius. Can you give us your full name and address, please?
Certainly, Darius Nagamwall, 27 Oceanside, right across the street from 33. And I just have to say I'm really frustrated with this because the lack of plantings, as outlined for the last year, impacts my property every storm. The ocean runs up, takes his yard and deposits it in my driveway and on my yard and causes my driveway to be eroded. Last spring, I had to spend thousands of dollars cleaning up that mess. And we already got hit in that first storm in November, and it's looking like I'm gonna have to do the same again. So I hope we can get some plantings in to stabilize things as Penny outlined. Penny, I thought your summation was absolutely perfect. And I just don't know why it hasn't been done yet.
Okay, thank you. Can we get Amy?
Hi there. It's
Amy.
Amy Grosier from 72 Kenneth Road. Echo everything that Penny said, basically. I know that the homeowner put in sod, but only to the top of the elevation of the land of his yard. He's still 6 or 8 feet from the road. So there was never any attempt at putting in the plantings at all. And I guess I'm trying to get a little bit of direction as to, or trying to get some understanding as to what exactly a vertical granite stone would be. I mean, is that really not just mini wall?
Mhm.
That's what I say.
Oh, it's not a wall.
Or, I mean, so what is it's a taller curb? Isn't that basically the same thing?
No, the DEP was made it very clear to him that he could not have stones there or any kind of a wall, similar to the walls that are on some of the abutting properties along Oceanside. That's what he actually built, and the DEP made him take it out. So all he's trying to do is to fix that area we're talking about, so he doesn't have to keep coming back and replace the soil. So,
I'm gonna agree with Penny. Seriously, the yards right next to his even have grass all the way up to the edge of the road. And if he just planted, I mean, he put sod in the rest of the lawn. If he even just planted grass, that area would be stabilized. That's the way that it was for years until he built it up. You'd lose a little bit around the corner, but there were bushes that were there for 20 years before he did all the work around the yard. So I think if we can just get him to do the plantings like he's supposed to, that would get us a long ways.
Thank you, Amy. Anybody else? Amy, Walkie, can you hear me?
Yep.
So, and I'm just a little unclear on this. So this is the applicant coming back with another NOI to do this piece of work. But in the meantime, they're under orders, the superseding orders from DEP to do the plantings. So does DEP give him a timeline to do that? And can there be fines imposed if it's not done in time? Because I'm just wondering why he can't put those plantings, and then if he's going to have to buy a larger erosion control to go around the edge of that property while those plants get stabilized. You know, we're watching Toll Brothers put that stuff in, and they make different size
Erosion control.
you know, the preformed with the material around it, the fabric. If they got a real stable one of a decent size and it wrapped around that property and was staked down. I mean, the case of Toll Brothers, they actually secured it with some fencing to keep it from moving.
Well, Frank, I mean, he clearly doesn't want to do what he's got the orders to do, which is why he's filed the second application to do something different. This application is independent of the other orders. He still has superseding orders that, you know, are requiring him to plant it out. Until these orders would issue, those orders carry.
So if we close this,
Mhm.
and either condition it or deny it, then he's back to DEP,
Yes,
right? And
Yeah.
right now, we're waiting on something from DPW that may or may not even make a difference to us.
right.
So in the meantime, the area is unstabilized for another winter. So
Mhm.
can we contact DEP and ask them to give him an order to get erosion control around that property and get it stabilized for the winter? So that these folks aren't dealing with that.
The last time I checked, and he's got the other site, mass actually, but I think, and also talked to Greg DeCesar about this. this property was considered actually in compliance. And was one that DEP had been checking on, like Mr. Mirabito reported. So I think your best bet is going to be to close it and to probably bump it to DEP or condition it with plants, which is what he's already got. And that way you avoid possibility of the wall, because I also would agree with Penny and the other commissioners are saying about the curbing. Not sure what the distinction is between that and a vertical wall. Yeah, this falls into a little bit of gray area category, and probably best to have the state agency weigh in.
Okay, I mean, I can see someone wanting to put a curb, but most of the curbs that I see are 4 to 6 inches high.
He's saying 8.
And that keeps a truck or something from snowplow from ripping that up. And we have curbs in a lot of places.
Frank, can I
Sure.
make a suggestion?
Yep,
What I'd like to do is have this continued one more time, and I'll come back. I'll speak to the owner and relay to him what the sentiment of the commission is. And if, and indicate that the best solution from the commission's point of view is to put the plants back. If we can get some answer from the DPW, I'd incorporate that, but if not, we'll just have to go with the plantings again. I know that's not what he wants to do, but this application needs to be closed out.
the only thing I'd like to see, Paul, is I don't want to see, you know, he's got a lot of disturbed soil. He's done a minimal amount of erosion control. And it just keeps adversely affecting folks around him.
Right.
So anybody else, we would be telling them to get their erosion control together. We do this with Toll Brothers on a repeated basis. We're doing this with other sites that have not kept up their erosion control, and we're ready to have storms start. I realize in the case of a real bad storm, that may not do a lot, but if they had some substantial erosion control there, staked down really heavily, that could keep his yard from washing away more, and work to allow his plantings time to get developed.
Okay, so noted.
I guess I'm willing to continue it one more time, but I don't know what the rest of the commission wants to do.
Continuing is one thing, but I think you're right, Frank. I think there has to be immediate response. We got to protect the neighbors. Honestly, they've been waiting a year and a half. We've been waiting a year and a half. I think you're right on. I think there has to be something to at least start to protect them a little bit.
I guess if I don't see the point in continuing, if the result from the continuation is the same effect as closing with conditions. So it just feels like we're continuing just to satiate something. It feels like, from my opinion, we should be closing and perhaps some sort of enforcement order. I don't even know if we're allowed to do that because it's superseding, but.
Okay.
But I am confused. Are we dealing with an NOI, or are we dealing with a superseding order? That's what blows my mind.
No, it's this NOI is what you're talking about. So it's case number 682923.
So,
So you could make a motion to close it.
but we would close it with the condition, Richard, that he puts plantings in only.
Well, yeah.
All right, either that or we just deny what he's asking for.
No, I
you
understand
can go
that, but can we also condition it so there's some protection for the neighbors immediately?
I don't see why we can't. Close it with stabilization has to go in within the next few weeks, and plantings first thing in the spring. You can't put the plantings in now,
No, that's true.
Yeah. but in the spring, they have to go in.
I
mean,
agree with that. I guess we have not found him to be responsive to things that are in orders. So I feel like,
understand that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean-
that's why
Let me put it this way. I'll take a motion.
I make a
we close.
motion.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm in stereo here.
Go ahead, Penny.
No, I make a motion to close. And the orders will be for plantings only to be put in as soon as they can be in the spring and within the next 2 weeks to get stabilization around the property.
All right, well, you're gonna close this, and then we're gonna issue orders at the next meeting.
Yeah, but
So,
I want him to realize that's what the orders are gonna be, just because we're closed. All right, I hear what you're saying, Frank.
but whatever. I mean, we got a motion.
Yeah,
I got a feeling there's a second there somewhere.
There is. You
That's
got it.
Richard.
Yep.
All right. So a motion, a second, all in favor. Doug,
Yeah, I'll close it.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
okay, Frank, yes. Okay,
can I just make one point, Frank?
I think you've made a few.
Yeah, but I'd like to make one more.
We got a lot of things to do tonight.
No, this is a quick one.
Yeah,
This is for the members on the commission, that when Amy's writing orders, you are more than welcome to contact just her with your thoughts on what should be in those orders.
as long as they're pertinent to the hearing. and-
Yes.
And been
Yes,
brought up,
and
the
that
things
it
that you
was
mentioned,
discussed.
anything that you think should happen could be discussed or written into the orders.
Yeah.
Okay? All right,
So we can't add like he has to buy me a pony or something?
No, you
Oh,
don't get a
okay.
phony this week.
you gotta put that out on Facebook, Doug, if you want.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so we're closing this. It's closed.
It's
All
done.
right.
Goodbye.
So 16 Salt Meadow Lane. I'm just gonna keep getting deeper here tonight.
Yeah,
We have someone from LEC.
It's John Zimmer, and I'm looking for him. Hold on.
And I gotta,
Okay, John Zimmer is on.
good evening.
Good evening. John Zimmer with South River Environmental on behalf of Leo McDonough. We filed this NOI for a boat storage building within the property adjacent to 16 Salt Meadow. It's actually 22 Salt Meadow is the address for it, back in November. And prior to the initial public hearing, we had a site walk. This one is a little bit different because, as you can see, the municipal boundary with Norwell runs it basically bisects the property.
Yeah.
So part of the project was in Norwell and part of the project is in Scituate. So the original design had the storage building shifted more towards the east. And more of it was located within the buffer zone in Scituate. We had a site walk with members of both commissions, as well as a member of the North River Commission, to take a look at the property and discuss where the boat storage facility was, as well as some of the other historic issues within the property. There was originally some fill that was put in. I believe the majority of it was covered through an after the fact RDA with Scituate. Unfortunately, the same process was not done in Norwell. So we're working with Norwell. We had a hearing 2 weeks ago with them to kind of go over this revised design and kind of talk some of the things through with them. The design has been changed. The boat storage building has been shifted to the north and west. The amount of work within jurisdictional areas within Scituate, actually not within jurisdictional areas, but within the buffer zone to the wetland has been decreased to probably under 500 square feet total. And the closest point of the building to the wetland is about 86 feet right now. And that's in Norwell, and it's actually further away in Scituate. So the majority of the building has actually been shifted outside of the buffer. The grading in Scituate has been reduced. It's been increased in Norwell, but reduced in Scituate. And so we've tried to take some of the comments that we heard at the site walk and incorporate those into the revised design. There are some other things that we're going to be doing, once we can kind of get both commissions onto the same page, so to speak. There was some additional work that was done in Norwell without a permit, so we're going to be preparing a restoration plan for them. There's also an existing, I believe it's a trailer or part of an old car that's down close to the wetland that's going to be removed. But Norwell still had some questions on it, and I know that we did have some discussion as a group at that meeting. We were continued to January 11th with Norwell. They floated the idea of potentially having a joint meeting with both commissions. I'm not sure if you guys have done that in the past or not. But basically what we wanted to do was kind of present the revised design, get some feedback from the commission, and then potentially work with both commissions to come up with a design and a site plan that's amenable to both. So that's kind of where we are right now. I'd be happy to hear some feedback and to see what we can do to get everybody on the same page here so that we can move forward.
Okay. Amy, you want to comment first?
Sure. So,
Thanks, John. Sure.
yeah, I mean, I think that John's recap of this was, pretty accurate as far as what happened out there. There was a determination from a year ago. It's after the fact for some fill that he brought out, which was before we discovered that the area actually encroached into the buffer, as well as just being in flood zone or land subject to coastal storm flowage. So, yeah, I mean, it was after the fact permission to grade an area out that looks like it was greater than what was originally depicted to you. So, and then some other additional disturbance. It's complicated now that we've got it on an accurate map with the site. The town line splitting between the building. I mean, I think the comments are, can we bring this as much out of the buffer as possible? And I mean, your bylaw says 50 feet. So it looks like that, if this is accurate, that basically, he hasn't gone into the 50. So I guess that's good for Scituate. Although I don't necessarily think that the plan has all the information that we need on it. Like the volume of fill and total area of disturbance. It's a little weak on detail. But other than that, it's not an independent lot on its own. I can tell you that. It's 16 Salt Meadow. So this would be an accessory to the main house. It's not its own buildable lot, so that's why we're not considering it. It's an individual number. And that's about all I got for right now.
Okay. Who was out there? Brendan, you want to comment on that? You were at the meeting.
Yes, I was. I actually have questions on how much fill is in here and whatnot. Just, like Amy had mentioned, so that's really, I guess it's really all I have to say right now. I mean, I was there, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Well, it's kind of it's a different.
it's kind of
site.
confusing, so yeah.
For sure. All right. Was Penny? I'm trying to remember.
I was there. Of course I was there, Frankie.
Okay.
John, why can't we move this whole thing out of the 100? Why can't you move it closer to the road? Then you'd have next to no problems except the fill issue with Norwell.
Right, I think what Mr. McDonough was aiming to do was to be sensitive to the neighbors at the end of Salt Meadow, and not have as much of a visual impact as it would by moving it closer to the end of the cul-de-sac. I mean, that was pretty much it. Understood that if it was moved out of the buffer zone, we wouldn't really be having as much of a conversation. But I think it was a function of that and being able to get the boats in and out of the building. With basically trying to be sensitive to the neighbors.
Okay,
And-
I'm gonna say, I want him to be sensitive to nature.
Right.
I'm more interested in nature than I am in the neighbors. When I look at that line, it isn't all that much that he would have to move it towards the street. He probably wouldn't even have to move it to where that existing shed is, and he would have the whole thing out of the buffer, the 100-foot. Do you see what I'm talking about where the existing shed is?
Yes.
Just
yes.
move it over there and it would just be a tiny little corner in the 100-foot.
Mhm.
I mean, that's to me is a no-brainer. Move it a little bit
Yep.
closer. Then all the buffer zones are protected.
Right.
That's my take on it, that I really think you need to move it right to where that shed is. The corner, the bottom corner there, just move it. And, I don't have a problem with it after that.
Right. I mean, if we did shift it around, there was still maybe a little bit of grading that would be required just around the back side of it. I mean, the
Not that much, and you're out of the buffer. You're out of the 100. Completely out of the 100.
no, understood.
Okay, thank you.
Can I jump in on that?
Sure.
Yes, please jump in.
I was looking for the plan in I'm just having a trouble with my personal email downloading these files tonight. So I don't believe I have this plan. Is this your plan, John?
Yes.
Yeah, Bob Crawford developed the plan. Yep.
So there's a line that goes, it's a 175-foot dash line that goes across the front. Is this an A1 zone? The residential A1 zone, do you know?
Oh, I don't. I mean, no, I don't know what the zoning is.
I
Leo-
think. Okay, but I think that 175-foot line, that's the building, that's the lot width required by zoning. So
Yeah.
the structure can't go in front of that, Penny.
I'm not saying to go in front of it, but you see
I
the
see.
corner of the existing shed? If you
Yeah,
move,
slide it down that line.
slide it down right there, and then you just have a small corner in the back would be in the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, all right. I thought you were pulling it all the way up to the shed. I don't think he can do that.
No,
I get you.
no.
Yeah, because I was thinking if you could put it and then rotate it,
Yeah,
and get it completely out, or it'd be farther over to the left. But that's me being a CAD nerd here. That looks to me like it would fit. There
Yeah.
would be probably no additional grading, or very little, but it wouldn't be any grading would be outside the buffer. Yeah.
But can I just say that these lots, what they're missing is the squiggly that connects them. So it's, this is,
Which lot is it? Penny?
it's,
That was gonna be my next question. Is it to the south there? Or I mean, where it
No,
has the word
this one.
plan?
Where it
right
says
above
plan.
plan, that line divides 16 and 22. And there's actually, it's one of those S's that connect those lots. So there's no reason why this building can't be shifted totally to the south and east.
Oh, I see what,
It doesn't.
so they
need to-
own that in common?
Yes,
It is a common, yes, it's not.
yes,
its
it's one lot.
I get you. So they could
It's-
combine that into a
It's
single buildable lot.
combined.
Yeah,
It
all right.
is combined. And this would be accessory to the existing single-family home at 16. So that's confusing and a little bit misleading on the notice of intent because it's all one lot. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. I don't know the details, obviously, but it could be still by itself a buildable lot for the future. If he puts that boat and straddles that lot line, combines those, that would forbid that happening in the future. I'm not sure what their thinking is.
But that's already happened.
It has already
It
happened.
it
Okay,
already
yeah.
was combined and it already is not a buildable lot on its own.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
John, are you in agreement with that?
I have not done any of the research on the zoning issues or the lotting issues, so, I guess I can't speak to that for in support or against it right now.
Okay,
That's something I'd probably need to talk to Bob Crawford about, or if, Mr. McDonough wants to speak to it, but I think we'd need to do a little bit more research to figure that out.
okay. All right, thanks. Doug, are you good with your comments for right now?
Yeah, thanks, John. Or everyone, Amy, I didn't realize that. So it seems like there's there's a huge amount of opportunity to move that out of the buffer zone then completely.
Okay.
right.
Jen?
I don't have anything new. I appreciate the thought that Penny and Doug have given so far.
Andy?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot. I've had my questions answered.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this? Is that Kathleen Palmieri?
I unmuted Kathleen. Kathleen, keep it brief, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, could you just
Yes.
give us your name and address?
Yes. My
And
name is
then-
Kathleen Palmieri. I live at 15 Salt Meadow Lane, Scituate. I just want to clarify something. There was far more than some fill put in. There were several 18-wheeler dump trucks from Farrell in Quincy. At least 25 loads of this fill was dumped there. I have other things. If the house that's on this lot, 16, is rented out, if he puts this building, if this building goes up, won't he need some sort of, I don't have the terminology, like toilets, bathrooms? So that would involve septic. We don't have storage down this area. Also with boat storage, that involves engines that have gas and oil. How will that be affected in the conservation wise? That's about all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else? Amy, did you say that the town of Norwell, and I guess John did, that they're still in their hearing process?
Yes.
Um,
In fact,
so-
there's a few of the Norwell commissioners on this call, I think even. Maybe one of them might give an update. or not, but yes, and it was continued to January. And there is opportunity for a joint meeting if you want to try to work it out as a group. If that's what you're interested in. I can pursue it.
Okay, John, you gave us a little bit of input. What's the status? I see Mr. Mott is on here. Maybe he wants to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute Ronald.
Hello, everyone.
Good
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you for having me on your meeting. I don't know if Will Saunders is on. Do you know if he's on, Amy? Can you hear me?
I do. Hi, Ron. I don't see Will's name.
Okay, I can fill you in on what we're attempting to do. We have grave concerns with the amount of fill that was brought in to the BVW area, the amount of tree cutting and leveling on the salt marsh. So we're dealing with that issue. We are considering a violation with the possibility of removing that soil that was added and putting in plantings and regenerating the marsh area. We are also concerned about zoning and building. We don't think it will pass zoning or get a building permit for this building. So that's where we're at right now. We wanted to have a joint meeting between yourselves and Norwell so we can discuss this in a good manner. So we're both on the same page on what to do here. I know there's an excessive amount of fill brought in illegally and dumped in this area for the purpose of this garage. So once again, we have a notice of intent in front of us. We're not sure if we're going to deny that and go with a violation. We're kind of leaning that way, but we'll find that out on the 11th meeting. So that's where we stand right now. I know we had several of the neighbors in on our meetings, and they're all really upset about this project. And it's to our understanding that this lot really is not a buildable lot. The buildable lot is to the right side of the house. So that's something that has to be worked out through zoning and building. So that's where we're at right now. And thank you for letting me talk.
Thanks, Ron.
And thanks for the input and the cooperation. And we could look into that. I mean, with Zooming makes the meetings a little bit easier. So we could figure that one out as we move along a little bit. We'll get some more clarification. Thanks.
Thank you.
Frank,
Yes, Penny.
if he moved the whole thing into Scituate and out of our 100-foot buffer, would that satisfy us? He could move the whole if he moved the building where I suggested, it's out of Norwell, it's all in Scituate, and it's out of the 100-foot.
Well, I guess first off, we don't tell people they can't be in the 100 if they do mitigation. So I would say that,
Yeah,
we've never told people that they can't build between the 100 and the 50, but we look for mitigation or we look for good reasons why. So I'd be a little reluctant to say that he can't build in the 100. And to be quite honest, I don't think that's the biggest fish to fry in this case. I think that, as Mr. Mott said, the amount of fill and the neighbor, he's got a lot of fill in a buffer zone already. Little bits in our town and a lots in Norwell. So
Frank,
that whole issue's got to be figured out.
Frank,
Yes.
I just think that this is a case where we need to work with the Norwell Conservation Commission. I don't think we can use a town line to split up the issues here at all. And so whether he moves the building or not, I think we have to work with Norwell to make sure that this whole situation is resolved.
I agree. I guess that's what I was saying
And I agree there too, Frank. I'm just trying to, they mentioned zoning. Well, if he moves it out of Norwalk, I'm not saying the Phil doesn't have to go and all that. I'm just trying to, then he'd just have to deal with one town zoning bylaw.
Well, that's his call to decide
Yeah.
how he wants to place
Yeah.
it. So, and I don't, again, I really think right now, the issues of the fill and the
Yeah.
cutting and all that, kind of a paramount over.
Yeah.
Over the
There has to
building.
be replantings. All right.
And then whether or not where this building actually gets placed, maybe the owner and John can talk about that some more to try to get it
Okay.
as far from any sort of buffer or any resource area that they can. And then talk about the removal of the material and some mitigation
Okay.
and that sort of thing would be my
Yep.
thought on
No,
that.
it
Do you
sounds
guys-
good, Frank.
Do you guys want to try to join in on the 11th? Or John, do you think that you're going to have a revised plan or some kind of a restoration proposal by the 11th? Can we talk some dates? So we can get
Yeah.
this on to the next one?
I think that's what we would like to do if you guys are amenable to it. The goal is, I mean, we've obviously heard loud and clear your sentiments tonight. So I think we're gonna take another hard look at this and, you know, I think we have a couple weeks to get you some revised information in, but if you'd be amenable to working with Norwell on the 11th, that would be fantastic.
That's a Tuesday, Amy.
Yeah, we
Is
have a
that-
meeting the night before. Yeah, we have a meeting the night before.
Yeah, and I can get the specifics on whether, I think that you might be able to Zoom or go in person. I think it's an either or situation, but I'll find out more details. So continue to the 11th so that to allow that discussion with,
Okay.
and then if it doesn't come
Amy,
together, we
can-
can just continue it again.
Amy, we still have Ronald on the call. I mean, I'd like to see us move forward and not hold this up, but I'm just wondering if that's the appropriate time for us to have a joint meeting or if some of the things need to be resolved, you know, and everybody's got time issues. And I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if it's a little premature to jump into a joint meeting that soon, or if Norwell's got some things they gotta work out, maybe. I mean, I guess we could say that.
Well, I can find out and then we can just post. If that meeting comes together, we can post that you're gonna be going to that meeting.
Well, I'm happy to say it at a public meeting. We're gonna continue this to the 11th so that anybody that's on butters or whatever would know that. But I think in the meantime, if you could talk with the Norwell agent and
Yeah, for sure. And so I will work that out and get that information straightened out to see if that can come together. And if not, I think that you can, I don't know, you continue to the 11th to that Norwell meeting, or you continue to our second January meeting.
well, let's just say that we continue to the 11th, and then if one of us has to be on there on the 11th, and then just say that we're going to continue it till our next meeting. I think would be okay with that.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right.
Somebody make a motion, please.
I make a motion, we continue 22 Salt Meadow Lane to
Yep.
January 11th.
And that was Penny. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, but Ron has his hand up right now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and he's also unmuted. So Ron, what do you got?
Yeah, we're meeting on the 11th. We start at 6:30. I will have Will send Amy the link and everything. And we either meet it in person or on Zoom, either way. So whatever you prefer.
Awesome.
So Amy, I'll have Will contact you and
Okay.
coordinate with him.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great. So I have a motion from Penny, right?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Doug, Gave it to you.
Doug as a second. All in favor, Richard,
Yep.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. Okay. 135 Rear Glades Road. On December 20th, 5:30 PM, the Town Hall Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Peter McCarron for work related to raise and reconstruction, septic work, accessory structure, landscaping at location at 135, excuse me, Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda on the town website. Sorry about that.
Frank needs a nap.
All right, I've got Paul Miorvito on the line here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
The property is owned by Peter McCarron, who I believe is also on this meeting. They've purchased the property, I believe, earlier this year. And this property was also, by the way, this property was the subject of a notice of intent about 5 or 6 years ago for the previous owner to do, elevate the house. But that work never proceeded. And the current owner is proposing to raise and reconstruct the existing dwelling shown on the plan. For the commission's information, we have been to the Historical Commission because the house was just 100 years old. They have approved the house to be raised. We've also been to the zoning board as well for a finding, a special permit to do the work on this lot relative to the proposed building. We've also submitted a septic system upgrade plan to the Board of Health to replace the cesspools that are on site with a new system to the left side of the proposed home. This project would also include elevating the existing accessory structure to the left rear portion of the property and put that on a wood pile foundation as well to get it out of the flood zone. The property does lie in a FEMA AE elevation 15 zone. Because this is on a barrier beach, the structure would be on wood piles. The top of the pile will be 1.1 feet above elevation 15 to conform to the commission's local regulation about being 1 foot above base flood. The finished grade over the septic system and areas adjacent to it would be approximately 12.4. The elevation in that area right now is anywhere from 10 to 11. The reason for that is to elevate it above the seasonal high groundwater, which was the high tide mark that we observed when we did our perk test. The other thing I point out, this plan shows several areas of existing concrete walls and concrete walks. The commission did ask to have those removed 6 or 7 years ago when I was in front of them, but the homeowner had decided to keep it. The current owner is planning to remove approximately 240 feet of these walls in the concrete slab, which is virtually all of it. And he's going to rebuild approximately 40 feet of it in the front portion of the house. And I'll explain what that is for in a few moments. The elevation of the site, other than the grading for the septic system, is going to remain the same. We show a silt sock around the work area. The owner is also proposing to put in some cutoff piles along the northerly and a portion of the westerly property line to act as a fence. The vehicles would park in the front portion of the property where the lot is 50 feet wide. As I mentioned, the house will be elevated up to 16.1. The first floor elevation will be approximately 18. which is about 6 feet above the proposed grade in the area under the house. The front portion of the house on the street side, there's a covered deck that's 12 feet deep. That's on the front portion of the house. When they walk off the deck, they'll be walking down a set of stairs to a small platform, and then they'll walk down another set of stairs to the northerly portion of the site. On the street side of that deck and the stairs, that's where we're proposing the raised planting bed in the landscape wall. The stairs would be approximately 4 feet wide, and behind that would be a 4-foot planter bed. In front of that wall, he's proposing to install some plantings of seagrass and some native plantings. There's also plantings proposed out at the street entrance. The rest of the site would remain in its natural state, which is pretty much sand and stone. As I mentioned, this is on a barrier beach, and in the larger storms, the water would come over the seawall. It'd flow over Glades Road, and it would go to the right side of the structure as you're looking at it on the plan, and it proceeds out to the salt marsh to the rear of the two houses that are to the west of this site. Similarly, on the southerly portion of the area, I believe it's to the west of the Egan property, water also flows from the seawall through the properties and into the salt marsh in the rear. The reduction of the walls from 240 feet to 40 feet results in a 40% reduction in the amount of impervious area on this site. That's a substantial decrease in the amount of impervious area. Most sites we've been involved with, the numbers go in the opposite direction. But all of the concrete you see there, the walls and the patio and the walks, all of that's going to be removed. And the septic system will be installed to the left side of the house, as I mentioned. And other than that, I think this is a fairly straightforward project. This is one more house that will be elevated on piles to conform with the FEMA regulations. It'll also add protection to the barrier beach as well. So with that, I think I'll end and answer any questions the members may have.
Frank, you're muted.
I'm muted. Jen Foley, this is your bud.
Oh, do we want to go to Amy first?
Well, we could do that. Amy, what do you think?
Well, I think that this could be a really good project as a raised rebuild. We do have the structural plans for wooden piles. It's a barrier beach with a coastal dune, salt marsh behind to the west. And I'm just a little bit unclear as to how much fill and grading is being proposed. And also commenting that the improvement that we should be seeking as a goal would be to have all the walls removed. Your interests are storm damage prevention and flood control, obviously, and no permanent lattice below the first floor members. So yeah, those, I mean, pretty typical for this type of a site, but I mean, it's a solid foundation right now, so it would be definitely a great improvement to see this go up. So I think that orders can be written.
Okay. All right, Jen, now you got that piece of it.
I know, my cheat sheet. Yeah, I think it's a great project. I believe we had the previous owner in front of us for all of the walls creating a runoff to some abutters. which isn't great. So I would echo Amy's statements or sentiments in that I'd like to see all of the walls gone. We're starting afresh and new here. I do love the proposed area of seagrass and native plantings up front by the road. That's such a great thing to do, and maybe there's even an opportunity to do a little bit more of that. That area does get rather destabilized in storm events, so seagrass would be wonderful. It's done really well over by that like mini parking lot by one of the entrances, so it can do well.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
Question, Paul, is there some sort of easement, access easement for the houses in the rear into the north of that?
No, those houses come in from a different street. I think it's Tilden. I believe it's Tilden Avenue that they access their homes from. That's the
Oh,
house.
it comes in and wraps around behind, so all
Yeah,
of them.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
see the abutter's name with the address. There's one 20 Tilden Ave directly behind us, and the other one is 18 Tilden Ave.
Okay,
And the houses to the right come in from Tilden Ave as well, the one at number 14.
okay. Okay, that was it.
Okay. Richard?
The only thing I would ask, if it's not part of the all the information that's been sent in, I'm with Jen. I like the planning. I just like to see a planning plan if it's not already there.
Okay. Andy?
Yep, I agree. It would be nice to get rid of the walls, all the walls if we could. Paul, when you said the piles will be used as a fence, do you mean sort of like as a boundary marker, or will there be something between the piles that more like a fence?
I believe where the piles are closer together, that he's proposing to put a large rope from them, so it looks like it's for the nautical look, if you know.
Gotcha, but no panels or anything like that.
No, the panels wouldn't last long.
Yep. Okay.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think everything else has been covered for me.
Okay, thank you. Brendan?
Yeah, I echoed sentiment on the walls like everyone else as well. And really everything has been covered. So I don't have anything additional.
Okay. What am I missing? Richard?
You got me.
I got you in the beginning, so I think we're there, right?
No, you're missing Penny.
Darn.
How
Oh,
could you miss
no.
it? Oh, Frank.
What's your
That's
thoughts, Penny?
The
big
only
miss.
thought I have is Amy mentioned about lattice. If they ever do put up lattice, can we stipulate it's wood, not the plastic? Because that plastic seems to be the one that creates the problem when it breaks on the beaches, where the wood will disintegrate in time.
Well, we're saying no lattice, right?
I say
So-
no lattice too, but I'm just saying Amy did bring it up.
I think that lattice might be the wrong term, but what you're talking about is skirting. So the wood
Yes,
that goes to cover the pilings and,
yes, if they ever do, that it is not the plastic, that it's wood. Something that will go back to natural.
Yeah, similar to what we wrote on the orders for
Yes.
Surfside just recently.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I just don't want plastic on the beaches. Thank you. Other than that, I'm all set, Frank. I think it's good.
okay, thank you. It looks like the owner, Mr. McCarron, has his hand raised. I wonder if we can unmute him.
I'll unmute him.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
Peter McCarron, 135 Glades. Rest assured, there'll be no lattice, no plastic lattice, no plastic skirting. Not a big fan of lattice, period. And just to provide a little bit more context, Paul mentioned that this did come before the board in the past. It was actually just March 19th of 2018. And I think most of this board was sitting on the board at that point in time.
Yep.
And you did an order of conditions April 11th of 2018. And in those order of conditions, you obviously approved the raising of the house, the lifting of the house, and for the prior owners. And there was no mention of removing any of the walls, any of the patios, any of the concrete walkways. So I think Penny, I heard you in an earlier meeting. You want people to be sensitive to nature and neighbors, more nature than neighbors. I'm trying to be sensitive to both my new neighbors as well as nature, and eliminating 41% of the existing impervious area is, I think, a huge step in that right direction. The walls are abysmal.
I'm sorry, what was the comment on the walls?
They're abysmal.
The walls are abysmal.
Okay.
I think the house is 101 years old, and I think the walls are as old. I think Abigail and Rebecca Bates maybe hid behind it and played their fife and drum.
Okay.
Not often you get a laugh out of people. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that input.
Frank, that's William Graham is
Yep,
mute. Okay.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Graham.
Still muted.
If we could unmute him.
Now we unmuted Beth, but not Mr. Graham.
I'm trying. It will. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
All right, good. William is on.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Have a couple of questions on it.
Can you just give us your name and address, Mr. Graham?
Sure. It's William Graham, 14 Tilden Ave. I'm the abutter.
Yep.
On the north side. The plan is very interesting. I have some questions as far as the planters that are out next to Glades Road. The front area, you have a sketch of two planters on each corner of the boundaries, which look nice on the plan. The only problem is that it's a very, very high erosion area. It's not unusual to see a 2 to 3 foot ditch after the major storms, that the fill just gets washed right down. It's driven off of the overtopping of the seawall. It flows over Glades Road, and then it rushes down through this lot number 135. Nothing will stand up there. The number 133 and 131 have built walls against Glades Road, and they put a barrier over the driveway so that no water can flow down their property. Unfortunately, it channels the water over onto the lot number 135, and it rushes down. There was a wooden shed next to 135, and that was washed away in the rush, and it bounced off my pilings and my foundation, and it ended up on the front stairs on number 18 Tilden Ave, which is directly in back of me. There's a serious problem there with the water, and I know we can't stop it. So my question is, those planters will not work in that area. The other thing is the cement walls that are there. They were added many years ago and then increased and increased. And I'm glad that Peter is considering taking those down. But in the drawing, there's a planter, a raised bed planter that looks like it's going to go in the place of where the cement wall is. And that is going to impede the water. And what that cement wall now does is directs the water over towards my house and then down into the houses down below. What we'd like to see is that the water has a more general flow so that we don't get the severe erosion that we get, because all that fill that is added each year, because the homeowners have added truckloads of fill to replace the fill that's been washed out. And that all ends up matriculating down into the area adjacent to the salt marsh and into the creek. And that's a concern. The plan calls for adding about 2.5 feet of fill. And I'm not sure to the extent of how wide or how it's going to be terraced off, but that will look to, if that fill is added to what's there now, it's going to deflect the water the same way the cement foundation does now. So it's a concern. And I wonder if the board can address that.
Thank you. I think I'm going to ask engineer to speak to that. Just what is the need for the additional fill, Paul?
Frank, the fill he's talking about is to the rear of 133 Glades Road. And it's for the septic system to meet Title V groundwater separation. 133, as Mr. Graham correctly noted, that has a vertical concrete wall in front of it. So the overwash from the ocean wouldn't be getting into the septic system area where the fill he's referring to is going to be placed. That ground back there is anywhere from elevation 11 down to 10, and we're going to bring it up to about 12 or 12.3, I believe.
So is the fill only going to be added on the south side of the house?
Yeah, the fill you're referring to is on the south side, over in the area of the septic system and the septic tank.
Okay. So there's nothing going to be added on the north side?
No, we aren't proposing anything there.
Okay. Is there any way, and maybe the board has dealt with this before, of slowing some of the flow of the water down, because the erosion really scours out the area and it all ends up washing back. And if you see on your drawing, there's number 18 Tilden Ave and number 20. It really forms a gully between those two houses as it rushes towards the salt marsh in back of us. And I didn't know if there was any consideration as to how we could slow that down so we don't get quite so much erosion.
Paul?
There's nothing that we can add to help that, because again, that's coming from the ocean. That's all the overwash that comes over the seawall. And you're right, it does scour out the rear portion of the seawall. And then any sediment that is in the wave action does flow onto the property. And because this is a barrier beach, the way it works is that the sediment from the ocean wants to be transported landward to the salt marsh area, which is what it's doing. So the impact you see with all that, the stone and the fill that's coming over the seawall and flowing into this lot and your lot, is it's taking the path that is that you normally see on a barrier beach. The problem is that this whole area is completely built up. So the sediments do cause problems for some people. Others don't have as serious a problem, but I have seen the site after the storms, and you know, there's some sediment that does come over the wall and rocks and stone. And
Well,
you're
they're
right, it does come down the north side of this lot, and it does go in between 18 and 20 and out into the salt marsh. And some of the homes have the sediment end up being stuck underneath the house. I know number 18 Tilden Ave is on wood piles, and what I've observed is that the area under the piles is pretty much been filled up with the storm overwash.
It's not so much the sediment doesn't come from the ocean. The erosion comes from the soil on the east side of Glades Road. It just scours out the whole lot and it pushes it back towards the marsh. It's not, we're not getting the debris from the ocean itself, just the water flow from the ocean.
Well, that's nature. Not gonna stop her.
I know that's a tough area. See water come over that seawall, it shoots across Glades Road, and then it was noted it kind of erodes right at the edge of the road and keeps on going.
Yeah, well, it hits the protective walls in front of number 131 and 133, and so that it can't go down at a slower rate, so it funnels it all over into this lot, and it's a raging river.
Okay.
Nothing we can do.
Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to speak to this?
Yeah, Frank, I have two hands up. Beth is the
Okay.
one gonna try to unmute first, okay?
Yep. Beth, are you on?
I didn't see a speaker option for Beth's name. So let's move on to Bill. Okay, wait a minute, here we go.
Can you hear us?
We can't
It's
hear
really
her.
broken up, Beth. Any
Anybody hear?
connection?
I feel like the line went dead. Let's,
Yeah, why don't we move to Bill and then we can come
okay,
back to Beth.
yeah, well, go to Bill, okay. Ready, Bill?
Thank you. Bill McCullen, 18 Tilden Avenue. So I'm the guy sort of directly down there that takes, I would say, probably takes the brunt of the when the water starts to really flow through there and pushes the rocks and sand and sediment, as was observed. A great deal of it has ended up under my house, which used to sit 4 or 5 feet off the ground, and now it probably sits 2 feet off the ground. And at some point, I'm probably going to have that dug out, which should be a lot of fun. So I'm fully supportive of the project. I think it's great that to see a new house going up. And I was really happy to hear that people on the Conservation Commission would like to see no walls there, because I think that might help solve the problem of the high velocity water that flows between 135 and 14 Tilden, and then sort of peels off between 20 Tilden and 18 Tilden. I think my neighbor Beth may have sent you guys some videos that she has taken over the years. I mean, it is a raging river anywhere from a foot to 3 or 4 feet deep in the worst of the storms. And it ends up filling in the environmentally sensitive marsh that's behind our houses, as well as doing a lot of damage to our properties as well. So, as I said, fully supportive. Love to see a finding that says no walls whatsoever. I think that would be best thing for the neighborhood, for the environment, and for everybody concerned down there. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we get Beth back on? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm gonna try for Beth again. Here we go. Okay,
Can you hear us now, Beth?
I think she can hear us. It's we can't hear her.
Maybe she wants to try to call in. You could use the phone part if you go back to the notice.
Yeah, it's a he and he's trying to talk.
I think they just connected to audio and then it muted. So maybe try unmuting one last time.
Okay, I think we got it. You're
Okay.
on.
Okay, hold on, I have to go. Let me put my phone away. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hi.
Good evening.
So I'm not sure if you got, I sent an email to.
It's just for the record, your
Oh,
name
yes.
and address.
Yep, Beth McGrath, Elizabeth 20 Tilden Ave.
Got it.
And so I sent an email yesterday. I think I sent to someone named Smith in your office, but I also sent it to Peter and hopefully passed it on. And I think it really just comes back to this wall that, you know, the water that does channel down from glades, from, you know, various sources comes barreling through at a zillion miles per hour. I sometimes tie a rope from my deck over to Bill's, so in case I have to get out, that's how bad it is. It's kind of, I don't know anything about water flow, but I'm just thinking if there are no walls there, then it has to somehow disperse. And that's really kind of my only concern.
Okay.
Frank?
Well, we're trying to eliminate as many barriers, I guess, as possible. It's tricky, as you know. I mean, anything that washes through there carries the material along and deposits either in those backyards or out into the marsh. But
What's the purpose of the wall?
I have no idea. Looks like something people have erected. Does that enclose the driveway? I'm just trying to figure out how does anybody drive back there?
No, Frank, what we did was to move the proposed house over to the north from where the existing one was. The parking would be in the front portion of the lot where it's 50 feet wide. That landscape wall comes out 8 feet from the front line of the house only. It's also an integral part of the stairway system going from the north side of the property up into the first floor of the house. Other than that, the land around that house will be flat. As I mentioned, all the other concrete walls and blocks and other solid barriers are going to be completely removed from the property. And the landscaping will be in that planter bed as well as out at the street. Other than that, the site will be graded off as part of the septic system, and I believe it'll remain as such.
So Paul, it shows a concrete wall sort of running parallel with the northerly line. Maybe someone can explain is that planning on staying, and what does that do for anybody?
You mean the existing one going from like the street to the back of the property?
Yes.
Yeah, that's going.
Okay.
They put that there so the water wouldn't come underneath their house. But even with the wall we're proposing out front, which is essentially the length of the front of the house, the water will come down once it gets past the front line of that porch. The water would be able to go underneath the piles and disperse itself out to the rear of the property, as opposed to flowing as a channel, if you will, from that wall over to the property line. And then from there going between number 18 and 20. I mean, it'll definitely spread out once it gets past the front line of that wall. It'll start going underneath the house, you know, in the larger storms.
So where's the wall that you're proposing?
If you look at the front line of the house, where I show that, that wall is 8 feet out from the front line of the house. And it's going to run the length of the front of the house. And there's a set of stairs coming out of the front portion of the house. If you can see the existing stairs that are there now in the front of the house. Well, the stairs coming out of the front of the house will be essentially in the same location, but back another 8 feet. And they'll come out of those stairs, and they'll walk down the stairs. There'll be a small platform. They'll take a left-hand turn and walk to the northerly side of the property down another set of stairs. And when they're walking down that other set of stairs, that's where the landscape wall would be. It'll act as a buffer to the walkway, but on the left side of it, as you're walking out to the north side of the property, there'd be a raised planter bed there. So simply to dress up the front of the house. When that's built, that's the only wall you'll see on this entire property, because everything else is going.
Okay,
Can I make this suggestion? If,
Sure.
you know, take down all the walls and after a year or so, when we see what the new flow is, if it doesn't seem to be impacting, then put something in then. I think that the wall that's there now is not going to mitigate what's currently happening. The water will still channel down in between the houses and into the marsh. So that's where that's where it all ends
Can I
up.
make a suggestion?
Sure.
Who is this?
The owner.
Peter McCarron, the owner.
Sure. Yes, Peter.
I'm perfectly content keeping all walls if that's what needs to happen. I'm trying to be a good neighbor and give relief. So removing everything and wait and see is not an option, but I appreciate the consideration.
Okay.
All right, I guess, Paul, I'm just a little confused in looking at this plan. I'm seeing with a proposed 40 by 40 dwelling, and then is that a deck that's in front of it towards the front of the house?
No, what that is a covered porch. That 40 by 40 encompasses the entire roof area for zoning
Okay.
purposes.
Then, all right, so then this, I guess, I'm not seeing stairs or anything come off of that. Is that they're gonna be added to the?
No, those are on the architectural plans. The stairs coming out of the house are pretty much in the same horizontal location as the existing stairs you see on the house, only they'll be coming off that front covered porch. I don't know if you see where floor elevation equals 14.2 on the plan, the existing one. FLR period elevation equals 14.2, right there.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, there's a set of stairs coming out off of the covered porch there. I think they come down 4 steps and there's like a small landing and then they turn left and they walk down the other stairway out to the northerly side of the property. That wall is actually integral part of the housework as the architect shows on the plan. But again, that's the only wall that would be there as compared to what's there now.
Okay. All right, do we have anybody
We have-
else?
Yeah, we have 2 more. This is a long time to spend on this project, so I'm gonna unmute Bill McCullen, and please, we can keep it short. I think we have the gist of it, and doesn't look to me like this is gonna close tonight.
Are we missing anything that we can't close if we get the
Yeah.
input?
I think that it looks like we should probably be getting a revised plan to clear up some of these items that are inconsistent with the conversation that's been having. I
Okay.
mean, commissioners are all saying no walls. I think the plan should be revised to show no walls. And also probably an update on where it stands with Board of Health approval. Because I don't see that this is just a box on a, you know, on the plan. There's no detail. So I am curious as to where that stands there. But anyways, let's hear from Bill McCullen, okay?
Okay,
Thanks for letting me chime in again. I just didn't catch the end of Peter's comment the last time, so I wasn't sure if he was agreeing with removing all the walls or not. But I would just say that I know there's talking about a dramatic reduction in the number of in the amount of walls here, but the one that they're proposing to leave, from my perspective, is the most problematic and what causes the acceleration of the water through that gap heading directly at my house. So that's the one that's the most troubling to me. So thank you.
okay, thank you.
Okay, and then Mike McCarron has his hand up.
Can you hear us, Mike? And we're not hearing you.
He's still muted.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
We got you. Yep, great. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm Mike McCarron. I own the property at 133 Glades Road. I'm an abutter to this property on 2 different sides, as well as the brother of the person who's actually building the house. So I'm enthusiastically in support for what he's trying to do. But also, I just do want to point out just one thing, you can see on these plans that there's a wall today that cuts across both pieces of property that obviously would be in dispute if he wasn't my brother. But I would certainly much prefer, from an aesthetic perspective, it's obviously I'm not affected by the water flow behind my house. But to Peter's earlier point today, the wall itself is very much, it's built with cinder blocks and stone, concrete in some areas, and very poorly done. If the alternative is to put something more aesthetically pleasing and lower than exists today, versus I'm concerned that the alternative is just leave it where it's at because it'll still serve its same purpose, and not move the existing wall, then I'd obviously rather see something in there, rather than the existing wall remain. So very supportive of the property. I think there are, though they're not raising their hands, there are other folks on the call as well, that are also abutters to this property that are supportive. So we think it's great. The house that's there now needs to be replaced. And I think it's a great project with the right conservation perspective in mind.
Thank you. Okay. I think we've got everything we can for tonight. So we want to take a motion to continue. How much time would we need, Paul, Amy, to get things worked out?
How about the January 11th?
Frank, can,
10th.
January 10th?
Yep, that's our next meeting.
Paul?
Frank, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
The owner would very much like to have the hearing closed tonight. I think the only thing you're looking for is a plan, a plan with a revision, just clearing up what's happening in the front of the house. I can have that to you this week. Other than that, I don't think there's any other changes. As far as the landscape plan, I think what the owner would like to do is we could submit one as a condition of approval, or we could submit one prior to the construction of the dwelling, when he has a better idea of what he wants to put in there for the plants. I mean, I'd have Brad Holmes put something together. I'm familiar with his work, but we would really like to close the hearing this evening.
So, Amy, if we condition the removal of the walls, all the things that the commission members have expressed, you don't think we can close this with those pieces and put them in the orders? Let Paul get us a plan. I'm just.
I think you could do it that way. If you wanted that way, it's
Can I make a quick point?
not sure.
Go ahead, Doug.
It seems clear to the engineer or the owner what you're looking for. Like, I don't, you know what I mean?
Doug?
Well, I just wanted to point out, note number 12 on the plan says all existing concrete walks, patios, and walls to be removed. So the plan is calling for the removal of all the walls of the site.
That's correct.
So there is a proposed landscape wall for that planting in front of the house. So that would be
Just in front of the house.
yeah, that would be the only thing that would be at a point of discussion as far as walls go. And I think we all know this house is going to be raised and put up on piles, so the water will flow easier underneath the house than it does currently.
Yes.
I think, from an engineering perspective, that there's an improvement to the water flow. I know that maybe doesn't seem intuitive, but we all know that walls cause more problems in areas like this than they do help. So there should be you can't possibly make a guarantee that people are going to see a massive improvement, but I think from just strictly an engineering perspective, the sheet flow underneath the house is going to be an improvement versus all those walls in the house itself.
Okay.
Yeah, foundation.
That said, do you want to make a motion?
I would make a motion to close.
Close. I'll second it.
Okay. The motion, we have a second. Penny, all in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. And Paul, what did you say? You're gonna have those plans to us tomorrow morning?
I don't think you're there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I'll meet you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't want to
Oh,
see you in your
God.
jam. I don't want to see you in your jammies either, Paul.
I'll get them to you by Thursday because I think Friday's a holiday.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's something coming this week. Let's get this meeting over.
Yeah,
All
sure.
right, thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night. We have 11 Gilson Road on December 20th, 2021 at 5:30 PM in the Town Hall. Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Krista Manning for work related to construction of an addition and a deck on a single-family dwelling at location 11 Gilson Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. And we have, oh,
You have Jed Hannon from Atlantic Coast Engineering.
hey, Jed.
Good evening, Frank. Good evening, commission members. Jed Hannon, Atlantic Coast Engineering. We did the the surveying and the site civil plan for this project. Heather Marshall's the registered architect that did the architectural plans. What you're looking at here is the existing conditions plan. What's proposed is essentially demoing a portion of the existing deck in the rear, building in a new addition, which ends up being a net increase of 755 square feet, which includes the new enclosed elevated interior area, as well as a dormered area above and a mudroom between the garage and the main house. The project is in the land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's in the 100-foot buffer. It's also in the FEMA AE 14. If we could just scroll to the second page, please, to show the proposed layout.
I don't know, Jen went to get something, Jed. Why don't you just keep going with your?
Okay.
Yeah,
keep going.
stay tuned because we hopefully have that plan that we can share.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, and then there's an existing shed, which you can see on the right side of the property line. The plan is to demo that to provide some, offsetting mitigation because of the work proposed inside the 100-foot buffer. The addition that's proposed where that existing deck is going to be a concrete foundation with flood vents. So there's 2 proposed flood vents, which is more than sufficient to meet the requirements of FEMA and the floodwater regulations. And that's really it. It's pretty much a simple addition, increasing the deck size, adding a dormer in the front, and then a mudroom between the garage and the main house. So at this point, I'll open up to any questions you might have.
Before we get started, seem to be missing something here. I'm looking for the 50 or 100-foot lines, Jed, or even a wetland line.
Right. So if you can go to sheet 2, we'll show that.
All right.
So
Jen's
it
trying
does.
to.
Yeah, it does. On the existing conditions plan, we're approximately 93 feet from the wetlands line, which you can see on the left side of the drawing. But it's more detailed on the second sheet, the proposed layout.
Okay.
I still am not seeing it.
But I'm not.
There we go.
No, that's not them.
If you want me to share my screen, I do have the drawings handy.
So where it says Phragmites,
Yes,
so is there, and there's a elevation 6.
yes,
So is the wetlands line in that general area?
yes, it's right where the edge of lawn meets the Phragmites.
Okay.
So that if you want me to share my screen, I can show you the sheet too, which I think it's a lot, it'll be a lot more clear. Is that okay?
Hold on one second.
Sheet. I have sheet 2, but I'm not seeing it.
If I could share my screen, I could pull it up and
I
show
don't
you.
know if we can do that. I certainly can't. We're trying to scroll through. Jen's trying to open a couple of things.
Okay, there we go.
There it
There we
is.
go. All right.
Oh,
Got
Okay.
it.
Okay, so there's the proposed addition, which you could see along with the proposed deck. The overall, setback relative to the wetlands line is approximately 24 feet closer. But we're still outside the 50. So the setback line is, I think it's 65 feet to the wetlands line, to the BVW line.
And this is all lawn, right?
Yes. It's all lawn with Phragmites in the rear.
Okay.
In the very rear of the property.
Are you good with yours? I was going to pass this to Amy.
Yes.
Okay. Amy?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, DEP had no comments. As shown, it meets Scituate bylaw. I mean, this house has been here for a while with lawn right up to the edge of the salt marsh or Phragmites edge. And I would say that it meets the requirements of your local bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay. Richard, what do you think?
I think I'm okay.
Okay. Doug?
I think I'm okay. Plan wise, I was just, is there the 100-foot buffers line on here, or is everything in a resource area anyway? I'm looking.
That's correct. For the latter, for the most part, the majority of the existing structures in the 100-foot buffer. But it's very close to the back face of the house, if you will.
The buffer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not depicted on the plan. I'm not missing something.
The 100-foot's not depicted, but the setback relative to the deck is shown, the 93.1. So the 100-foot buffer is pretty much right where the deck meets the house.
Well, yeah, that goes to the rear lot line, the 93.1. So you're
Correct.
calling that the resource area? Like, I'm just trying to identify, like.
It does align with right where the Phragmites start at the rear of the property.
Okay.
Jed, who delineated the wetland?
Brad Holmes did.
Doug, are you good?
Yeah, I guess I'm just like, I don't know if he flagged it or,
right.
Do you know what I mean? You're usually looking for, this is a notice of intent still, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we were usually looking for the delineation of the wetland line but maybe it can't be delineated. I'm just trying to.
Right. It ends up being that the Phragmites are right at the rear of the property. So it's kind of a unique situation, but that's what it is here.
And that's what Brad said is the official resource area is the edge of the Phragmites. Well,
right there,
edge of lawn is basically.
So Jed, typically when this would have been done, Brad would have flagged that, and then your surveyor would have picked up those flags and put them on this plan, and it would have showed that as part of the submittal.
Correct, and that's typically what we do, but given how it's laid out here, it's at the very rear of the property, so I mean, we could certainly add that. I don't know if you folks did a site visit out there, but I mean, that's the situation here.
Okay, I mean, I'm seeing the edge of the lawn, and then maybe there's 4 or 5 feet between the edge of the lawn and the property line. And it sort of angles at a 45 or something. So I don't know whether the wetlands line follows that angled line or not.
Yeah, that's approximately where it is. I mean, it's right back at the rear of the property. There might be a couple feet right there.
So he didn't poke any like pin flags in the ground or anything like that. He just gave a narrative or something to
Correct.
depict that.
Correct.
Do we have, the reason why I'm asking is because usually, you do a notice of intent. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, but the wetland line is then good for 3 years. So we're usually.
Yeah. We're not assessing the accuracy unless we choose to.
So we can just say we're not doing that in the orders.
Well, I think you should probably put the flags on the plan and see what Brad has to say. Although it's consistent with project up the road that this would be the edge of lawn, but we have also had cases where the lawn is not consistent.
No, it's been planted out.
Okay. Penny?
To be honest, Jed, I don't want you to come back again without all the lines on a plan. This is not the first time you've come before us with a plan with no wetlands, no 50, no 100-foot buffer. It just gives us something to look at and say, okay, he's in the 100, fine, it's all disturbed and this and that. But this is not the first time you've come before us with a plan like this. And I say, don't come before us again, please, without everything on the plan. So we can just look at it and go, oh, okay, there's the 50, there's the 100. This, I'm guessing, looking at it. But other than that, I do not have a problem with the proposed decking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jen?
This has been a little confusing because of the lack of information on the plan, but I think it's going to be okay once we get an accurate plan.
Right. Andy?
Yeah, I think we need to see the delineation, right? Because if I'm reading this correctly, where that edge of lawn goes, it's that corner of the deck on the top right. That's probably getting near 50, right? It's 64 or so to the close corner, and then that line comes up. So we might be flirting with 50 here. So I think we do need to see the line.
Okay. Brendan?
I just have the same sentiment, nothing new, just the lines.
So Jed, how long will it take you to get your surveyor to get out there and pick up that wetlands delineation and get it on a plan and back to us and show us the 50 and 100 on the plan?
Oh, we could get that back to you later this week. That's not a problem.
Do we?
So Jed, that's flag locations too.
The wetlands.
Right.
We want him to plot those, if he doesn't.
Understood, yeah, just as built. Yep.
If he hasn't picked up those flags, we want him to pick up the flags or markers and then show it on a plan and then extrapolate that with the 50 and the 100-foot line.
Understood.
Okay. So we want to move this to continue it to the 10th. I don't know how we're doing for hearings. Jen's shaking her
10th.
head, yes.
Yeah, the 10th is good.
Okay,
I make a motion, we continue to the 10th.
that was Penny. Do I have a second?
I'll second
I'll-
that.
Brendan, good man. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the 10th. 7 Dunbar Lane. On December 20th, 2021, 5:30 PM in the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Gregory Kelleher for work related to construction of an addition, porch, and detached garage at location 7 Dunbar Lane, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. So who do we
All
have here
right.
for?
Well, Frank, so I see that Greg Kelleher, the owner of the property, and Greg Morse are on the call. But in this case, given the conversation that we had with Art Allen after his site walk, that from the last meeting, that the application is incomplete. Because the delineation is not representative of the pre-violation conditions. So we're looking for a restoration plan. And I think we just want to go through and reiterate what you're looking for and get acknowledgement from the owner of the property about the fill.
Okay,
Once we deal with the enforcement, then we can get into whether or not there's a project to consider.
all right, so we have Greg on. Greg Morse.
I'm unmuting Greg Kelleher and Greg Morse.
Okay,
They're both on.
Good evening, this is Greg Morse.
Greg.
Hi.
So Greg, you just heard what Amy had to say. Apparently, when Amy and our environmental peer review went out there, they found considerable amount of fill and not consistent with the plan that was there before. You know, we have a plan that shows something fairly different, and that from what was the date, Amy, that the last?
That's the A&R from 2014. Which, Jen, I think you have that to show.
It was 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
2011.
11, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which is when Mr. Kelleher purchased the property.
that's incorrect. He purchased the
That's
property
incorrect.
in 2013. So if I may make a couple statements real quick. Greg
Sure.
Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing Greg Kelleher. This property, we submitted the notice of intent. It was for an addition project as well as a proposed barn. We were requested to do a peer review. We fully funded the peer review for Art Allen of Ecotech to go out and review the wetlands. This plan here appears to have been prepared in 2011. I believe there's a note at the top of the page saying that the survey was done at that time. And yes, it does show a wetland line on it, but it does not show any wetland flags. It has no notes of any kind that this was a confirmed wetland line back in 2011. I'm not aware of an ANRAD that had been filed, and certainly that would have expired. This is more than 10 years old at this point. Mr. Kelleher purchased the property around 2013 after this lot had been cut out, had an existing home on it. As depicted on this plan, it had an existing shed on it as well. I understand in speaking with Mr. Kelleher that he had been on site with Patrick Gallivan, the former conservation agent, when he purchased the property regarding cleanup of the property. To what extent? I would let Mr. Kelleher explain that. But I know there's been some vegetation removed in the back. There's been some lawn established. The delineation of the wetland as depicted on this plan seems a little odd in my review of the site as a engineer. Number one, because the site, as you go up toward First Parish Road, you're going up in topography. And there's a house beyond Mr. Kelleher's down Dunbar Lane on the left side of this plan. It seems odd that the wetland would creep up as much as depicted on this plan. But again, I was not involved in the 2011, nor was Mr. Kelleher, delineation of this. I don't see an ANRAD or an NOI in the file confirming the line from that time. So while there probably was some alteration in the back here, it's hard to really comment on the extent of it. I saw on your last agenda that there was going to be a discussion regarding this. Mr. Kelleher was not informed of that discussion. He has not received any letter or correspondence from your commission asking for any replication at this point. I received the peer review today for the first time associated with this project. I believe you've had the letter for that for several weeks at this point. We're certainly open to talking about mitigation and getting us back to a point where we can hopefully move forward with the intended project, which is to put an addition on the house so Mr. Kelleher can stay there with his growing family. Turn it over to you.
Frank, there's a history of violations out here, violation notices pertaining to the shed. And also the determination of applicability that was issued, I think in 14 maybe, was for an addition that I think was not built, but it was also built in that the shed was to be removed. So then all the future correspondence that we see in the file is pertaining to removal of a shed.
There
But
was an addition built.
Okay. Anyways, Phil has been brought in and a restoration plan is going to be needed before we can assess what can go on. And I think that the members that are been on the commission are familiar with the property, as well as office receiving complaints from abutters about this property bringing Phil on and changing the vegetation.
I'm just wondering, I mean, I've been to the site in the past. I'm sure, Penny, were you there?
Yeah,
Is any of the members been there?
I think just you and me. I don't know about Richard.
Maybe Richard.
A long time ago, yes.
Okay, so, and I know that you and I had a chance to walk it. It's too bad some of us couldn't be there to look at that. Did I concur with the wetlands line?
No, not at all. In fact, if in his memo and in the conversation that we had at the last meeting, I think he's stating that there's up to 150 yards of material he thinks has been brought onto the site.
There were 3 different wetlands at this property. I believe he concurs with 2 of them, which are the delineation of the inland bank associated with the brook, as well as the FEMA floodplain. So we're just talking about the BVW.
Okay. Was there much deviation between Art and Brad's? Does anybody know that?
Yes. And yes, and our recommendation is to have the applicant file a restoration plan and assess the areas that have been filled and then come with a plan to restore areas.
Frank?
Yes, Richard.
Based on what Greg said, if they just got that report today, I mean, in fairness, they need time to respond to it. And I just don't know what's going to be accomplished by having a protracted discussion on it if they haven't had a chance to look it over, respond to it. And then we're going to have a lot to decide even after that.
So let's just move it out.
You got the point, Penny.
Yep.
Well, what do we, before we do that, I mean, I don't disagree that we're going to continue this. But I'm trying to figure out what else we need to give them direction on, or what we need to do. So that in a month or whatever, we continue this to, that we come back and still have a bunch of
questions.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they need to evaluate what areas have been filled so that they can come up with an accurate resource area delineation. And then propose how to restore. I mean, the other secondary evidence are aerial photos, which you can clearly see what's gone on in the past 10 years. It's very clearly documented in aerials. Hoping that this can be, I mean, I think it can be done through an enforcement order, or we can just have the conversation leading in that direction with mutual agreement that needs to be accurate before something's going to move on this.
So could they filed this NOI. Can they add to that NOI a restoration plan? Can we add to what they've already filed?
Yes. So once we can get the resource areas accurately agreed upon and a restoration plan agreed upon, then if there's a project that fits within your requirements for the Scituate bylaw, then you can evaluate that project at that time, once it's complete.
Okay. Did, you know, typically when you do a site visit, you use the, you know, Art Allen and Brad might be there together to look at that. Did that happen, or did you go out independently, Amy?
Yeah, no, on this date, it was just Art and myself up there.
So we need to get both of them out there.
Well, that's, I don't know, just putting that out there. Art didn't tie anything off, right? Where he felt that the line was?
No.
Okay. So obviously this is an expense to the applicant, Greg, but I mean, we almost need to determine that wetland line. Do you think it makes sense for Brad and Art to do that together?
I think it does make sense for the two of them to discuss this further. I think it makes sense to do a pretty thorough review of the files here too, which
Yeah.
I have not done at this point. Because again, I believe there was some correspondence regarding an addition that was done on the back of the house in other work on this site. And I don't know what that correspondence is, or if I will find anything in the file regarding that.
Okay.
But we're agreeable to, you know, working up a restoration plan or mitigation plan, you know, whatever is deemed necessary at this site. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so everybody's heard what we have here. We're going to continue it. I know we have butters or other parties that are interested. I guess they've been waiting. Does anybody have a problem with my moving to that? And then we'll probably look to continue this with some direction.
Well, I don't think it makes sense to talk about a future project until we have this settled. So, I mean, unless the abutter comment pertains to information about the fill that they've observed. But as far as like, the comment letters that we've seen from the abutters and stuff like that pertain to the outbuilding that is on, like, up close to First Parish, not necessarily the addition. Like, I don't think we're at a point where we're evaluating that until we get this other issue straightened out.
Well,
So,
all right, I'd like to just, if someone stayed on and they've obviously made a point, but we got to keep it really short because we've got a few other things to do here this evening. So, who do we have?
Greg, Dave,
Pardon me?
Greg Davies.
Can we put him on?
Hello?
He's on, yes, keep
Can you
it
guys hear me?
short, please.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just get your name and address, please, sir.
Greg Davy, 51st Parish Road. I'm in a butter. Just, you've captured a lot of my points. I think that the fill, that 150 yards, it doesn't seem like as much as I've seen go in there. But you know, who knows? But the one thing that I would like to point out that hasn't been raised is that this is for, I hear people talk about a barn, and in our conversations with Greg, that is going to be a garage with an accessory dwelling. And so I'd like some clarification on that. It seems to be based upon the plan. It lists that there's 3 stories there, and it seems to be an area of ambiguity that isn't getting much attention. There is certainly, you used to need a swimming suit to get between my house and Greg's house. And there's been a number of improvements, which I think you guys are getting to the bottom of, and I can speak to later. But I just wanted to put it out there that, you know, it doesn't seem that this plan is accurately representing what is intended to be built. You know, it's just not really coming forward in the narrative. And so I'd like clarification in whatever new plan is and what it is that are exactly trying to build here. If you can see the number of stories, it indicates 3 in conversation, 3 stories in conversations. It indicates that Greg has indicated it's an accessory, going to be an accessory dwelling, which to me is essentially a house on a lot that doesn't warrant a house there.
That's not pressed.
Okay. Is that, that's the, I'm not, we have the wrong screen up, I guess. We have the old. I'm just scrolling to see if I can find the other plan. Greg, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. What we're proposing is a barn that would be up on First Parish Road. It is 2 stories from the front. However, it is a walkout basement on the north side facing the existing house. So from the rear, it would appear to be a 3-story structure. We have not made any applications for it to be an accessory dwelling. At some point in the future, it very well could be. It could be applied for. It's certainly not by right. It's a special permit granted by the planning board. Anyone has the right to do that with any accessory structure on their property. At this point, it's not proposed to be an accessory dwelling. We've made no application for it to be such and don't intend to in the near future.
Okay. So, Mr. Dave, just so you understand, what we're trying to deal with is the wetlands issues, and the building application for that garage is on it. But if it were to be an accessory dwelling, which I'm not seeing that goes before the planning board. And as Mr. Moore said, it's not a matter of right. It's up to the planning board to decide whether they can grant that. What we're going to try to get to the bottom of first is how much fill has been added here and where the true, if we can figure that out, where the natural wetlands line might be. And I think once that line is established, that it may have some impact on the applicant's project. So we almost need to figure that out before we go a lot further, if that makes sense. Okay. Is there anybody else?
Yes, I see Ken Scott. I'll unmute him.
Okay. I'm not hearing him yet. Ken, we can't hear you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ken Scott at 41 Lawson Road, Scituate. The question I have here is, when you talk about mitigation and figure out where the wetlands are and where they were, firstly, I'd like to know this plan that you have up, this plan that you have up now, who flagged the wetlands? And can we talk to that person if you guys are having a hard time finding where the edge of the wetlands are? And I suspect it might be the same person, but I'm not sure, but it might be the same soils engineer. And number two, when you consider remediation, when you do delineate that line, I would hope that the board would consider the abutter next door and in your plan to allow that new dwelling off of First Parish Road. So I think it's extremely important that that actual wetlands is properly flagged and the board considers the abutters if it's been moved. That's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you. What we really want to figure out is the wetlands. There's a conflict there. To your point, I believe it's the same wetlands person. But to Greg's point, it was never really delineated or used in any fashion. So I think it's important to get the wetlands folks out there. And maybe we'll even figure out a time that they're going to do that. And if a couple conservation members can attend that, it would be something I'd be curious to see where this is going. It's been a long time since I've been on the site, and it seems like it's different than when I was out there last. So hear what you're saying. We have another hand up.
Yeah, this is Suzanne Ott, Frank.
Okay.
Hi there. Thanks for the minute. We had.
Suzanne, can you just give us your full name and address, please?
Sure. Suzanne Atta, 56 First Parish. I am neighbors with Greg Kelleher, and we border the proposed barn build. And I just wanted to mention with the plan, the old plan that you're looking at, we had that commissioned when we purchased lot number 2, as it's delineated on the plan that you're looking at. So I can certainly provide the name of the surveyor as well as other information we have about that. And I'm happy to forward that to your committee.
Okay, thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Anybody else? So how much time do we want to give this to get something between Art Allen and Greg's office? And then Greg, you have Morris have time to go through the file. What do you think we want to continue this to, or Amy?
We push this out a month and then continue again if we needed to.
Okay. So what, January 20 something?
24th.
Okay, I make a motion, we continue Dunbar to January 24th.
That's Penny. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
That's Doug. All in favor, Richard?
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, thank you. All right. Do we have any other hearings?
Nope.
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
That's-
Let's see if we can work through these administrative things fairly quickly.
Yeah, let's go quick. I make a motion, we accept the minutes of 12/16 as written.
Have a second?
Second, Richard.
Richard, all in favor, Doug?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes, thank you.
Okay, I make a motion. This is request for extension of orders. And are we gonna do 3 years, Frank, or 1?
What do you want to do? Amy?
I think 3.
Great, yep.
I didn't know your name was
Okay.
Amy.
So I make a motion, we make an extension for 3739 Collier Road and 28 Inner Harbor Road for 3 years on both.
Okay, that's a motion by Penny, or second,
I'll second that.
is Brendan, all in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Hey, so for motion for orders,
Yep,
9 Pondview and lots 1 and 2 Bayberry as written, and an ORAD for 109 Elm
I'll
Street.
second that, whoever said it.
that was Amy reading them out, so you have to make a motion.
I make a motion, I can't remember, but my brain just went. Did
What she
somebody-
said.
Just, okay. And so we have a second
Second,
from somebody.
Second that.
You made the motion, Brendan just seconded it. Richard,
Yes.
Penny, I'm sorry, Doug.
Yes.
You got me going. Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan. Great,
Yes.
thank you.
just drew a complete blank.
Don't worry about
Is
it.
that really unusual, Penny?
Wow.
No, I don't need to be reminded, thank you, sir.
Okay, so then the C of Cs as listed, we're issuing.
Yeah, we're fine. Do you have a problem with any?
There were some notations that,
As long as they met the requirements.
yeah, I mean, there was one that I wasn't particularly pleased with, but the more or less, I think that they meet the intent, and so we'll go ahead and issue those.
Okay.
Amy, on this
Without-
minor
Without
modification,
major modifications. And then, yes, request for minor modification. Actually, I have Jeff Hassett is gonna speak to that.
okay, why don't we do that?
Jeff, okay. Jeff, you're on.
Great, thanks, Amy. So I'm here with the property owner, John Keaveney, and we're seeking a minor modification to the single-family home raise and rebuild project. This was approved under an order of conditions issued in September of last year, 2020. We submitted a revised plan. It's dated November 23rd, and the revision is to flip the house so that the garage will be on the right side instead of the left. And the benefit of that is that the driveway is a lot shorter, so it ends up being 1,900 square feet shorter. And then the back left corner of the house does get closer to the resource area, but it's still outside of the 50-foot buffer. And it's that area that's closer is in an area where there was a swimming pool that was going to remain, which is now being removed, and also a pool house that was going to be constructed, and that's no longer part of the project. So it's actually a net improvement. The limit of work does not change at all. And I think some of the abutters have had comments about there's an easement that runs down the right side of the property, which this project doesn't propose any work within, so it doesn't interfere with it.
Okay.
Okay, Amy, I know you've had some input on this. Do you want to give us any?
Insight.
Well, I can tell you that the abutters have commented that they would like to see this go to a public hearing. Frank, you and I, we've talked about it, and I mean, I think that overall, given the original project and the location of the project, I don't think that it's a significant change in what they're asking for. So I would say that the minor modification would be acceptable. Although I would like to see that the limit of work extended up the left side, whereas right now it cuts short. It doesn't go all the way up the left.
It doesn't go all the way up the left?
The
Well,
limit of
right.
work.
Oh, the
Yeah,
limit,
right.
okay.
In the field right now, it looks like it just stops. So I think they should add some additional silt sock.
Okay.
Amy, do you know, or Jeff, what the change in square footage was between this project and the proposed project, the one that we conditioned?
Well, it's the same size house footprint, but do you mean the portion that's in this, in the 100-foot buffer?
No, so the footprint isn't really changing, the size of the footprint from what we conditioned?
No, it's the same footprint, just flipped.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. So do we have to vote on this, Frank, or does anybody have comments, I guess?
Well, I do.
Go ahead.
But
Go ahead, Doug.
well, it's more a question because we received some comments here from in a butter. I don't know if Amy has some comments on that about some work on the site, unless I've got the wrong one here. Isn't this 184?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, I was out there actually earlier today, and I mean, the house is been taken down. Sign is up, the site appears stable condition as is, but I mean, I don't know. I do see that as that it's a really close neighborhood for sure. You know, people are right there next to each other, so.
Is this going to change the distance to any of the resource areas, Jeff?
The back left corner of the house is closer to the wetland, but that falls in an area where there's a swimming pool that was going to remain, and now that's gone.
Okay.
And also a pool house that was going to be actually, looks like partially in the 50-foot buffer.
So
and that's no longer part of the project. So it's a net increase.
So
Net improvement.
flipping this over, when this was proposed before, and you just bear with me because it's been a while. When this was laid out before, you were going to retain the pool house and the pool. And now
retain the pool and actually build a new pool house that was bigger than the old one.
So neither one of those things are going to be there. There's no new pool house and the swimming pool gets removed.
That's correct.
So is it a decrease in disturbed area?
It's the same limit of work.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Sure.
When you say flip this house, are we talking like literally a mirror image? Because I'm comparing the two and I'm not
There we go. Whoop.
quite
There we
seeing
go.
it.
Now I do.
Oh yeah, the garage was on the left before.
Yeah.
Now it's on
And
the
it
right.
was,
Yeah, actually, yeah. So the garage is on the right now. Actually, that does ring a bell. We did push the garage back. Otherwise, it's the same footprint.
And then you have a retaining wall all the way around the back.
Yeah, so
That wasn't,
in this original design, there was grading around the back and then 2 retaining walls in the area of the pool. So now it's the grading extends around. We did away with one of the walls, but extended it.
and one more question, I'm sorry. Did
Yeah.
you move the structure back at all? From where it was? I'm just comparing the two.
Is it,
Yeah,
is
go.
the structure any closer to the, well, it looks like, because if you look at the plan from before, if you flip that over, it looks like part of the structure is now where the pool was, so it looks like it might be
Right.
getting,
So
it's being moved a little closer to the wetlands line.
Well, where there was a pool.
Yeah.
yes.
Right, which
So
is no longer going to be there.
there's a gray outline here that's a little bit hard to see. I wish I could point to it. But over on the left, it says previously approved house and pool house. and it's the gray line that was
Yeah,
the old,
the broken line.
the old approved footprint.
Okay. Lots of lines.
Yeah.
So it is quite a big push. It is pushed more towards that.
It's where the pool was, yeah.
Okay.
It's a straighter line where it had an angle before, a curve.
Yeah. But to your point, it's all in an area that was
disturbed
or the pool. So it seems like that's
acceptable.
okay. We'll rotate around here. That was Brendan. Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling a little bit with how much change, just by process, should we give people abutters a right to come in and weigh in on? I mean, I hear Jeff's argument. I get where it could even be an improvement, but I'm struggling with that. And then I guess I'm also I'm trying to think through, and Jeff, maybe you can speak to future intent, but we struggle sometimes with projects where things get tacked on later. So this was a pool house and a pool and a shed a year ago, and now all that's being taken off the table. Is that staying off the table, or might we see applications in the future to have those things put in new places?
To my best knowledge, it's off the table. They have no intent to build it. Where we propose a pool house is overlapping the house a little bit in kind of an awkward location. So they certainly wouldn't put a pool house there. There is room where maybe down the road, this owner or previous owner could desire to put a pool in, but that would be a totally separate filing.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's what I have.
Jen?
I'm trying to follow. Has this one retaining wall already been built, or is this what you're proposing?
Proposing
Okay, got
the
it.
only work that's been done is they demoed the house. The site's just cleared right now.
Okay.
We already approved both retaining walls, right?
Yeah, what was approved was
Yeah.
2 retaining walls on the left.
Yeah, and you're getting rid of one.
Yeah, and we
So-
did make it longer though.
That's an improvement.
Well, I don't know that I don't know the math on if it becomes an improvement if it's the same amount but just one long one instead of 2 short. I don't know how that works, but I'm not sure. I share Andy's sentiments, so I don't have anything else to add here.
Okay. Thanks. Penny, I know you've already weighed in, but officially, do you want to weigh in?
No, I'm fine with it. I do not have a problem with it. The pool's gone, the pool house is gone. It's been repositioned, but I don't see any major problems here.
Okay.
No,
Richard?
I'm fine with it.
I'm in the unique position of agreeing with Penny again.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, no, I think based on what I can see that minor modification seems appropriate because I just don't see a dramatic change. In fact, I see some reductions that make it even more attractive. So I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing a couple of hands. Looks like the owner would like to speak to this.
Okay,
Get
I'm
him.
gonna unmute John.
Hello, John Keaveney, 5 Cushing Landing, the owner.
Hey, John. Good evening.
Hi, everybody. So again, just to reiterate what Jeff Hassel was saying, the idea was that I never wanted the pool house and I never wanted the pool. I want to return the backyard to nature. The idea with moving the structure was to move the structure in line with the property line. The previous structure was converging on the property line, and I couldn't get the car into the garage. I needed a 5-point turn. The other problem was the cars were going down around the back of the house and they were going into the wetland area. And I didn't want that to become a habit. So the idea was to flip the house to the other side. So to put the garage there so that when people came down the driveway, they went straight into the garage and I had a little bit more clearance to get into the garage.
Okay, that makes sense. Great, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that wanted to speak to this? Any other?
Seeing none, Frank.
Okay, do you want to vote on this, Amy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the modifications as presented.
Okay. That's
I'll second
Penny.
it.
Rich, second from Richard, all in favor, Doug,
Yep.
Jen,
Yeah.
Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of a half one, but I think that we got enough.
What about Frank?
Frank's good. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks a lot.
So what do we have left? Penny, what did you want to add to this quickly?
No, I don't want to add anything. You wanted to talk about Appleton, the community garden.
Oh, yeah. So real quick, Andy, and I apologize for not answering a couple of your emails, but Andy, maybe you just want to tell the commission you're ready to go with the application for the fencing and other improvements, and Penny trying to work with Andy on that. Go ahead, Penny, because Andy, you might as well listen to what Penny wants you to do.
No, he has the funding for the
Okay.
fencing. But what
Yeah.
I would like him to do is to put in another application. I don't know if you're too late this year, but for that well and for a shed, you obviously need a shed out there. There's been issues already. And you're gonna have to either build a shed or get funding for it.
So
okay?
Andy was trying to get pricing on a well, and I tried to
I
get a
know.
few, I tried to get a few well people to respond, and neither one of us came up with anything there. Everybody's just been too busy or whatever. I mean, you'd really just be winging it to say it was a $30,000 project or something. That I'm still trying to figure out if it's a shallow well or an artesian well. And then how we are going to power that well and all that. So it would just be a real kind of a roll of the dice to put a number out there this year.
Well, let's try and get something by July to get in for next fall.
All right, well,
Okay.
maybe I'll give you
No,
the list of
because
a few.
I
I'm
can
gonna give you
say-
some names and addresses of well people, and then you can go see them, and maybe by then we'll have someone that want to give us the thing.
Something that would be a grant?
Huh?
that's-
No, we're
that-
gonna go to
I mean,
CPC. We can
Yeah.
get the money, but we need a price.
Well, but that's actually a point. I remember when I picked up the beach grass for that
Yeah,
project and talking to that farmer, there are different programs that, especially water and things like that, that can be applied for. So we can talk about that, but I think if they get the fencing and if they're gonna have to truck a little water, I know they have the big water jugs there, and
Yep.
we'll try to make do. And I just told them for the time being, the farmers that are out there are trying to work with things that are recyclable and whatever, and they're using cardboard to smother a lot of the overgrowth, and it almost acts like a mulch or something. But with all the wind we had, it blew a lot of it around, and I encouraged them to make sure they weigh it down, and then maybe they could store their excess stuff in a couple of those old pig pens until
sure.
they come up with something better. So it's a step at a time, but I think would be good. And then the other part of it is getting the other fields licensed for commercial use. And I think it's important because if we don't, they're just going to get overgrown. And it's going to make it harder for them to farm them. And Andy's put together a commercial license. Amy, do we need to get that to Jim, or how do we?
Yeah, that needs to go to Jim and probably town council and select board.
So let's, like, right after the first of the year, let's really put a press on to get those things move forward. Okay. Well, Andy, between us,
Yeah, that sounds good.
we'll do that. I appreciate it. But if we don't, it's going to just make more work for everybody in the future. All right. And then Jen and I were at the Driftway Park on Sunday with a Boy Scout that wants to do, I think I had sent to you a picture of a station for exercising. And then he proposed doing something different. Maybe Jen can explain what those things are, because I don't exercise that way.
We go to the
I think you do. You just do it indoors.
Oh, okay.
So he had a very interesting idea in that to kind of make better use of the entire site without having many more structures, having little like placards for different trail intersections or different spots where there could be other like stretching or workout ideas. So maybe that's lunges or squats or calf stretches or something like that. But it definitely was an intriguing idea because it's so theoretically non-invasive, but really perhaps expands the amount of people who would perhaps engage with this initiative.
Jen, is this just placards, or is he putting physical things up there to exercise on?
I think that's a little bit TBD, but there's definitely an element, or I believe that there's probably two solutions to that. We were really talking a bit off the cuff, but I think if you guys were to say, we don't want there to be a footrest for you to raise your foot to stretch, there's a way to do it without that by still providing the information to visitors.
Okay, because I have to go back to the mess that we had up the street here.
Yeah.
Ellis that they just got ripped off trees and this and thrown around. That's the only thing. The sad thing is that you have some people go in and do vandalize that type of thing, and that's a shame.
Penny, if you
That's a risk everywhere.
Yeah, Penny, if you split your screen, your computer screen, you'll be able to see that I forwarded to you the.
Yeah, no, I looked at that on my email here.
So he's got a series of these little stations.
Yeah.
And what we thought maybe might work is if he puts these stations at trail intersections, we could actually call them out on the map. We can modify the map and have those there. And then, so in a way, it would mark the intersections of the trail. And then be able to be used as an exercise piece. And we don't know what will happen. I mean, sadly, as much as the property's used, there's also some vandalism that occurs, and we can only hope that that doesn't happen. But he seems pretty ambitious, and it's a park that's used for a lot of different purposes, and I'm thinking it's not a bad addition, but I'd like to know what everybody thinks. If maybe we could just go around and see if you've seen the picture of the singular station, but these are individual ones. And what were those things that he was going to put on it, Jen?
Oh, QR codes.
There you go. So.
Which
you
I
could-
will fully admit I was 100% wrong on, because we talked about them from a trail map capacity. And I
Yeah.
didn't think that they were great then, but they've really grown in the last couple of years.
So we might be able to put that, kind of incorporate that, somebody that knows what they're doing could do that. But I'm personally not opposed, but I'd like to know what all of you think. So. Richard?
I like it. I like it. I'm looking at it now. No, I really like, I think it's nice to have such an original idea that so many people could conceivably use. I like it.
Doug?
I like them.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
I
think,
might.
you think
actually
they
go-
work at the Driftway Park?
Yeah, like I think it placed in the right location.
Okay.
I mean,
Jen,
I mean, I think there's obviously some cosmetic concerns and stuff like that, but people who are doing fitness work out there, I think they probably would appreciate stretching bars. And I'm looking at all the little pictures here. They're do you think that causes us any like issues down the road, that we're putting in things in a park like that? I mean, is there hesitation there from anybody?
Well, it's the vandalism piece, and then in time, when they're worn out, will there be someone to back him up and do that, or will we have, we'll have to see what happens. If there's a lot of interest and people like them, then we'd look for more volunteers, and it's a tough spot. We've seen some vandalism, the things that are bulletproof of those god-awful cement tables and seats, and they look like heck, but they've stood the test of time.
Yeah,
So,
they have.
I don't know. I mean, I just, it's a different thing than we've been doing in the woods. And it's certainly used by just Jen and I for the short period of time we were there. I'm amazed that the different folks are there for so many different things. It's pretty interesting. So, and I think most people accept a lot of those as something that's an amenity that's put on there, so.
So would these be closer to the parking area?
Well,
And
I was
like-
thinking that he could shift them all around and put them
Ditch all the way
at
out.
trail intersections. Make them work along with a trail intersection, so if you moved along through the trail at different trail intersections, you would hit a different station. I don't know if that works for exercise or not, but what do you think?
I was thinking of these, the stretching and whatnot, but yeah, I guess I shouldn't comment. Like everybody has their own routine. Like I would see people running through those trails, which would be a nice run. So you'd stretch the beginning and start stretch again at the end. I suppose some people stretch in the middle. I don't know. I shouldn't. Like, people work out however they want to.
Well, do you think that would be something that people could appreciate, that along the way there'd be something different to do, that you'd run for a bit and then do some sit-ups or whatever else? Jen does that sort of thing. Do you think, Jen? Jen's trying to stretch right now so she can stay awake. I don't know. To anybody else, I don't think I'm going to use them a lot personally, but we'll never know,
Never say never, Frank.
I guess.
Positive.
I mean, I've seen something like this before, and they were spread out, and the idea was you'd run from one to the other. So,
That's what we did at Alice.
so yeah, of course, the whole potential for vandalism, but potentially won't happen.
Right.
You know, give it a shot. I think I'd be
Andy?
for it.
Thanks, Brendan. Thank you. Andy, what are you thinking?
I would love to see them go up and be used. I think it sounds great. I hesitate though, because I've seen these in several places and I don't know that I've ever seen them well used. And so that's just my hesitation is do we go through with it and then they aren't used, and is it more trouble than it's worth? But if people could go outside, exercise in that spot, that would be great. I'm just wondering how much use they'll get.
I think it'd be nice if they were. The
Well, he's
question is,
looking for permission to do this and make it his project. And I
If
think-
they aren't there, they're not gonna get used.
Frank, do
What's
we have him
that?
come in and present to the commission his ideas? Part of the experience?
I mean, we could ask him to be at a meeting. He sent us along these pictures. But we could certainly ask him to participate at the next meeting or something.
I mean, I've found that in the past for Eagle Scouts, that's been a good lesson, the permitting process and how these boards go. Because I feel like this is gonna be great until it's not.
Sure. Well, let's see if we can line him up for the next meeting. Can we see if we can do him at the start of the meeting or something? And we'll just ask him if he can give us something for like 10 minutes. So,
That might even be asking much. I
yeah,
mean,
5 minutes, I don't care.
will he be nervous?
He seemed pretty self-assured, don't you think, Jen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Oh, good.
yep.
I mean, and if you are
Wow.
nervous, there's only one way to get over that.
And we could even have him fill out an RDA form.
Well, it's maybe a minor activities permit. Let's see. All right. Good. And just, it was amusing to just see the number of folks that were out there doing different things. We found a fellow that's been cutting back all the bittersweet, and he was hard at work doing some of that while we were there. It's an interesting place. All right, anything else? Sure, somebody's got some wrapping to do. Anybody want to make a motion to go home?
Last meeting of the year, folks.
Or at least close the
oh
meeting?
yeah, happy 2021, everyone.
Yeah, same to all of you. Thank you for sticking with all of this.
Yeah,
So,
thanks. We could have, I hate to say a lull, and Jen's gonna shoot me for saying that, but
Yeah, she's just already holding her forehead.
I know, well, but I feel like it could be the prelude to those, the 40Bs that are out there on the horizon and stuff like that, unfortunately.
Well, let's just enjoy the next week and a half, Amy, and then we'll
Yeah,
see what happens.
Let's everybody have some good holidays.
Yeah, for sure.
thank you. You too.
Just real quick on the agenda, it says signing of documents. Is Jen making a point that we need to get down there and sign some things? I'll try to be down there tomorrow morning if that's the case.
I will be there tomorrow morning.
I was there today, and do your wrist stretches because there are a lot to sign.
Okay.
There's a lot of CFCs. All those properties that were listed, they're all coming to a head. And it's funny because was it one of them? Oh, I know. It's not even on this list. The one on Hatherley Road, which is superseding orders, that Bjorkland one,
Oh, yeah,
that's bought and sold twice.
yeah,
It
yeah.
didn't even have a CFC. The next
They don't
meeting.
care.
It's funny how, no, but these others, they're like heart attacks to get them done.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Well, I would take a motion from somebody
I already made a motion.
I
did-
second that emotion, motion.
Oh, wow. Ooh. Okay, all in favor, Richard?
Sorry.
Right. Good night.
We'll give you a break on that one. Richard, yes.
Yep, stay well, everyone.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy.
Yes.
Great.
All right, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Same to everybody.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.